Welcome, MMALC family. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We have an amazing podcast today. We have the program director, yes, the program director himself, David Perez here from Harlem Center for Education. He's here to share some information about college and career readiness. Fabulous podcast. But first things first, please do us a favor. Attendance is important. You know how important it is. In the chat box, please place your first name, your last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box. Please do that now. Don't just put your first name, because if you put your first name, we don't get credit. You'll get credit for the attending the podcast, and the school also gets credit. If you don't put your correct name, sometimes people put nicknames, DJ Jiggy. We don't get credit, so it doesn't count. So please, thank you, Carlos, for putting that ticker tape on the bottom. If we can't read your name, or maybe you mistyped it, we'll be able to get you from your teacher. So please put that important information there. In addition, when we start the podcast, David Perez will also ask you to fill out an attendance form for his organization. Okay? He will place a link in the chat box for you to open up, fill out the attendance information that the organization needs, and then he will lock it in his file cabinet at work. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sula Haska. I am one of the case managers at Mid-Manhattan Adult Learning Center. I also want to introduce to you another case manager and the creator of this podcast, Carlos Rosas. Carlos, welcome.
Thank you.
He is our maestro behind the scenes. He's going to be engineering this whole podcast for us. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you. Thank you. In addition, if you have any questions, please place it in the chat box. From time to time, David Perez will ask you to please type in your name, first name, last name, and your teacher's name in the chat box, because attendance, as you know, is very important. So, without further ado, thank you, Carlos. There are two sets of attendances today. The first attendance that you're typing your first, last name, and teachers, that's for our school. What we do is after the podcast, we will collect that data, put it on a spreadsheet, and send it to our data office for us to get credit. Okay? So, without further ado, let me introduce to you, a round of applause, David Perez, the program director of Harlem Center for Education. Come on in, David.
Thank you so much, Ms. Haska. Really appreciate it, Sula. It really is a pleasure to be here, and thanks, Carlos, Mr. Rosas, for we were just talking about how wonderful this platform is, in terms of getting information out to students.
Yeah.
So good morning, students, teachers. My name is David Perez. I am the executive director of the Harlem Center for Education. We have been working with the Manhattan Adult Learning Center for many, 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 many years.
We keep saying 10 years, but now it's like over 15.
I have it, Sula. It has been 13 years.
Wow.
So we have been working together for 13 years, going back to Miss Walker and yourself and Carlos and everybody. So it really is a family affair here between Mid-Manhattan and Harlem Center for Education. And, our mission is to help adult learners, which is exactly who you all are as students, to help you with making the transition to post-secondary education and training. So we want to help you apply to college. We want to help you apply for financial aid. We do career counseling. We do academic advising. All of it is free. We're funded by the U.S. Department of Education. We are a nonprofit organization. We're across town in East Harlem. So I know everybody's at home right now. So am I. Our office is open, but we're still not doing things in person yet. hopefully in September we'll have that back to normal, rocking and rolling. We're right across town on 104th Street and 5th Avenue. If you know where Museo del Barrio is, we're in that same building
Yes.
across the street from Central Park. So let me get to.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you
Yes.
been with the Harlem Center for Education, and why did you decide to work there?
Well, I've been with the Harlem Center for Education for 14 years.
Wow.
I started as an advisor, an academic advisor. Previously, I was working at a tier 2 domestic violence shelter, working in the youth department, and I found myself helping the parents. It was a women's shelter, helping the parents a lot with the college admissions applications, and doing resumes and applying for financial aid and stuff like that. And so
Mhm.
when I saw this opportunity, way back then, I took it, and when we first started, we had a storefront on 2nd Avenue, so it was really grassroots. When we had the Education Opportunity Center, which is an adult program, we only work with adults in this particular part of the program, but we also have youth programs as well. So yeah, it's been great.
Excellent. So what makes a person a good fit, a good match to work for your organization?
Well, you definitely, I think, have to have a service orientation. So, in other words, I do see this like a business, and the students are our customers, the participants are
That's
our customers, and we
nice.
want to provide a good service. Yes, it's free to the participant, but it's not free to run this program, or it's not free in terms of the funding that the federal government provides. So, we want to provide excellent service. I think that's our number one priority. So you have to have a service mentality, and also you have to meet people where they're at. And we'll talk about that. Some people may not necessarily want to go to a 4-year college right off the bat, and so we want to make sure that we meet people where they're at, and then help them, to put their plan together and complete those steps.
Excellent, David, and we need you. And we are so appreciative that you are part of our family. So
Thank you.
why don't you take it away?
Sure thing. Thank you so
And
much.
the students, let the students know, if you see something on his PowerPoint presentation that you um, are interested, take your notes, take your pictures. Don't forget, you can take pictures, because this is such important information that it's invaluable. So thank you, David. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good morning, everyone, once again. There is a piece of business that we need to attend to. As I just said, this is a nonprofit organization. So the way that we prove to our funders that we're actually providing services by having you fill out a form, that is our attendance form. And Mr. Rosas, if you can please put up that link in the chat, and we will make sure that everybody has it. So this little jot form here, if you could just click on that link, it's going to take you to an intake form. This is not to sign up for college. This is just the proof that you were here and delivered and received the workshop. So we need this for our records, just in the same way that Mid-Manhattan needs your attendance records. This is how, again, we keep our funding. So if everybody can please fill that out, take a couple minutes to do so, even as I'm talking. That would be fantastic. You just hit apply. I think it says apply at the bottom of it, and I get it by email. So that's it. You can just sign it with your finger or with your mouse. Okay. Okay, I think that is that piece of business. Yes. Thanks, Mr. Rosas. So let me just talk about what we're going to be doing. We're going to be discussing, pretty much the college admissions and financial aid process from a wide perspective. So we're going to be looking at different colleges. We're going to be looking at the CUNY system. We're going to be looking at financial aid. What is that? How do you apply for it? What's the process? And some career information resources. Again, this is basic information. Why? Because we want to make sure that when you finish with your task, you have the right information to take to move forward in terms of your next steps. Now that may be college. That's what I'm providing. My organization provides. It may be a training program. It may be a license or apprenticeship. Point is, after you get your task, we want you engaged in some type of education or training. because it's just necessary for the workforce. And so I'm going to be talking about college, but I'm going to be talking about college in a way that connects directly to employment. So this idea that you have about college, that, is pretty much a general idea of an 18 to 22-year-old going away somewhere for 4 years and then getting back, and then coming back home or getting a job after they get their bachelor's degree. That is not what we're talking about today. Okay. We're talking about much shorter term programs that really have a nice fit for adult learners. So we're making the linkages between college, training, and employment. This is very career focused. So I just want to kind of change our and shift our perspective a little bit in terms of what college is about. Okay. Just to preface everything. All right, Mr. Rosas, I think we can put up the PowerPoint and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm sure everybody can see that. So this is our presentation. It's called Investing in You, Continuing Your Education in Unprecedented Times. So, I won't belabor the point. Suffice to say, it's been a very, very challenging year and change now, year and a couple of months, being in the midst of a global pandemic. But I want to, tip my hat to you all for continuing your education and training, even while all this is going on. I know everybody's adapting to new platforms. Normally we would be doing this in person, but we have wonderful technology here to help us out and expertise. So I just want to commend you for continuing education and training. We can go to the next slide, Mr. Rosas. Thank you. Okay, so everybody knows that in terms of what I like to connect college to is employment. Again, we're talking about college and training for the sake of improving our career opportunities. And with that being said, I want to make just put everything in perspective. Okay. Situation in New York City is bad. Okay, it continues to be bad. Unemployment rate nationally is about 6%. We're at almost double that. As you know, the reason that is because New York City has a lot of industries that require face-to-face interaction, restaurants, entertainment, hotels, clubs, bars, nightlife, venues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff has been either, if not shut down or closed down, very severely limited. And so that has really had a negative impact on jobs. Okay. This is going to take a while to come back. So this is just the reality of what we're dealing with. We can go to the next slide, Mr. Rosas. Okay, so what's our response to this? Okay, there was a similar situation to this. If folks remember, 2008, 2009. If everybody may remember when the folks on Wall Street crashed the economy, they were dealing with all kinds of mortgage-backed securities and mumbo jumbo, and they basically mortgaged everybody's house to bet with. And the bottom fell out of the housing market, the economy crashed, et cetera. There was long-term unemployment, what they call the Great Recession. And at that time, I was still doing this, and at that time, I was still working with Manhattan. So that kind of shows you how far back we've been going. But what you saw during that time was long-term sustained unemployment. In other words, people were looking for jobs for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and not able to find anything. Now, let me just explain something. When you are looking for jobs and you have the necessary qualifications for that job, and you cannot find a job 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, okay, now you're looking at not just problems with you necessarily, but problems structurally in the economy. And that's what was going on then, and that is what is going on now. So in other words, don't get discouraged if the job market is tough right now, because again, look at what we're dealing with. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, what was the solution to this? What a lot of people did back then is that they took this opportunity to go back to school. So remember, when we're talking about the economy, we're talking about cycles. Okay, economy goes up, economy goes down, economy goes up, economy goes down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you're in a down economy, that there aren't a lot of jobs or the types of jobs that you want, this I think is a good opportunity for you to go back to school to prepare yourself for the job that you want, the career that you want when the opportunities come back. Okay, so this is a good time for you to go get that certificate, get that associate's degree, get that license, so that when the unemployment rate is 5% and there's a lot of jobs, well, now you have the qualifications in order to get that job. Okay, remember, we're dealing in an economy now that requires for any type of job that makes a family sustaining wage. Family sustaining wage is $20 an hour and up. That requires post-secondary education and training. Post-secondary education and training is anything after high school. In other words, a high school diploma by itself, you're not going to be able to get it done in terms of advancing your career. So we want to continue to move forward, get ourselves some education training. Now, we have a very good resource here in New York City called the City University of New York. Okay, the City University of New York, CUNY, is a university system. It is 17 different colleges, and I'm not counting the graduate school and stuff like that. Okay, just the undergraduate schools, bachelor's and below, 17 different colleges. There's 10 senior colleges. Those are the colleges where you get your bachelor's degree, like not too far from Manhattan, City College, okay? Hunter College, York College, Queens College, Brooklyn College, College of Staten Island, John Jay, okay, et cetera, York, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These Lehman, these are your four-year colleges where you get your bachelor's degree. Now, for the adult learner, I do not recommend that you start off immediately with your bachelor's degree. Why? Because when you're doing a four-year bachelor's degree, it's going to take you 4 years to finish it. And when you're talking about jobs and searching for jobs, okay, you cannot put on your resume that you have a degree until that degree is finished. Okay, does that make sense? In other words, if you're going to school for your bachelor's degree, you cannot put that you already have a bachelor's degree. And when you're looking for employment, what do employers like to see? Employers like to see that you have already completed your credential, because that shows that you have expertise in that field. Okay, very important. So we're going to focus, instead of the four-year bachelor's degree, we're going to focus more on the community colleges. The community colleges are the places where we can get 1 year certificates and 2 year associate's degrees. Okay, and with those kind of shorter term credentials, we can use those credentials, get them a little bit quicker, and use them to get employment. And then if we want to continue going to school, we can. Okay, if we want to continue to go and advance our career even further. Now, the good thing about community college, there's 7 of those. Okay, you have Bronx Community College, Hostos Community College, LaGuardia, Kingsborough, Queensborough, BMCC, and Gutman Community College. There's 7 community colleges that you can go to within CUNY. Okay, good thing about community colleges is that they're open admissions. What does that mean? Open admissions means that they accept everybody that has a high school diploma and has $65 for the application fee. This means that as long as you have your high school equivalency, which is what you're working towards, and you have $65 for the CUNY application fee. This is not for us. This is what CUNY charges in order to process your paperwork. You are going to be accepted into a community college. Okay? You don't need regents. You don't need SATs. You don't need recommendation letters. You don't need to write an essay. You don't need extracurricular activities. You don't need to play a sport. You don't need any of that stuff. Okay? Why? Because community colleges accept everybody that has a high school diploma. That is the criteria that you need in order to be accepted. This is fantastic for adult learners because it means that you don't have to do a lot of stuff to prepare yourself to go to college. You don't have to get together all these application packets and all these different kind of things that maybe your kids have to do. Your kids have to do all that stuff because they're going to competitive admissions institutions. So that means that, for example, City College, you just can't roll up into City College. You have to meet certain criteria to get into that school. You have to have certain grades and certain SAT scores and stuff like that. Community college does not work that way. Community college is open admissions. They accept everybody. Now, let me just talk about, because I know there's a couple questions that come up in terms of, what is college practically, and how will you actually be able to attend? So I'm going to throw some things in the chat box here, just so we can see it, and everybody can, of course, this is going to be recorded, so it's fantastic. Everybody can see this. Here's just some information here, okay? And I'll go off the chat box here. So when we're talking about college, everybody knows we talk about credits, right? Credits are what you get when you pass a class, okay? You're awarded a certain amount of credits when you pass a college class. Generally, the credits in terms of the way that things are grouped in college are generally in groups of 30. So 30 credits is equal to 1 year. Okay, and then 60 credits is 2 years or an associate's degree. Okay, 90 credits means you're a junior, third year. And then 120 credits means you have graduated with your bachelor's degree. So it's 30, 60, 90, 120. Okay, you accumulate those credits as you go, as you pass your classes. Now, what is a credit? Okay, a credit is a denomination of time. What does that mean? Credits equal hours spent in class per week. So if you're talking about 1 credit, make sure that you can see my finger on the camera. If you're talking about 1 credit, it's equal to 1 hour in class per week. 1 to 1. It's a ratio, direct ratio. Okay. Most college classes are 3 credits. Okay. Everybody can see this in the chat. Okay, most college classes are 3 credits, which means that college classes meet for 3 hours a week. This is about 90% of classes. Some will be different. Sometimes you'll have like a science class that has a lab attached to it, and that'll meet for an additional hour. So that'll give you an additional credit. But the overwhelming majority of college classes are going to be for 3 credits, but they're going to meet for 3 hours a week. Okay, now, this can be based on a schedule that's set up a number of different ways. So let's say, for example, you're taking English 101. English 101 is English composition. There's no avoiding that class. Everybody has to take that class, okay? Because they got to make sure you know how to write, all right? So let's say you're going to BMCC, which is a huge school with 20,000 students, okay? That means that they can't offer just 1 class of English 101. They have to offer what are called different sections of the same class. So in other words, it's the same class, but it has different professors and it meets at different times. And they may have 10 or 20 of these sections based on just that everybody has to take this class. So you could have a section that meets Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for an hour each time, all right? That's going to equal to 3 hours or 3 credits, okay? You can have a class, English 101, same class, that meets Tuesday and Thursday. That will meet each session for an hour and a half, which equals 3 hours a week. Okay, 3 credits. You could have a class that meets Saturday morning from 9 to 12. 3 hours, 3 credits. College classes are equal to 3 credits and meet for 3 hours a week. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. This goes to the next piece here, okay? There is a lot of myths, going around in terms of, whether you need to go full-time, part-time, etc., what you can do to get financial aid. Here's the deal with that. In order for you to get financial aid, which is assistance for you to help pay for school, you have to be taking a minimum of 6 credits. Okay, 6 credits is equal to 2 classes or 6 hours a week. So what am I saying here? People say, well, I can't go to college because it takes too much time. It's going to take me too much time. Okay, that's not necessarily true, because you can go a minimum of 6 hours a week. Now we know that in a week there are 168 hours. So for you to go to college and be able to get financial aid, all you have to do is take 6 of those hours. 2 classes, 6 credits, 6 hours a week, you can go to college. So the idea that you cannot go in terms of time, we've already dealt with that, okay? Because all you got to do is go for 6 hours a week, okay? Now, this is different than the way that your kids go to college. When your kids go to college, remember we said everything is in groups of 30, okay? So 30 credits is 1 year. So the way that your kids typically go to college is that their 30 credits, what they do is they go during the fall semester and they go during the spring semester for 15 credits each time. Okay, they take 15 credits in the fall, 15 credits in the spring, then they're done. In the summer, they can go sit on the beach. Okay, and so it's much different than the way that we would go to school. Now, why don't I recommend that you do 15 credits? Because remember we said each class is worth 3 credits. So if we do 15 credits, it's equal to 5 classes. That's a lot of work. If you're working, if you have a family, if you're taking care of kids, et cetera, you are not going to be able to handle 5 college classes at the same time, because it's not like the professors get together and coordinate and say, you take this class, you give this assignment on Tuesday and I'll give this one on Wednesday. No, that's not the way it works. You may have times when you're getting slammed with 5 different things due at the same time. And so that's why we want to go part-time. We don't want to do like your kids go. Your kids go full-time. And what they do is they take 15 credits in the fall, 15 credits in the spring, they're done. We can't do that. If we do that, we're going to crash and burn. We're going to do things a little bit differently. What I recommend to adult learners is, instead of taking 15 credits, to do either 6 or 9 credits a semester. So you're going to go part-time. This is another thing I want to emphasize. Nobody here is requiring or requesting that you go to college full-time, that you drop everything and just go to school. Okay, that's not what we're doing here. We're going to integrate this into what you already have going on. Okay, very, very important that this is not a thing that's going to completely take over your life. This is something that you're going to build into what you already have going on. Okay, remember, we only talk about 6 or 9 credits, 6 or 9 hours a week. You can do that. Okay, you can do that. Okay, so here's what I recommend for the adult learner. What you're going to do is you're going to go part-time, but you're going to go all the time. What? That doesn't make sense, Perez. What are you talking about? Let me show you. Let me show you. I'm going to throw it up here in the chat. Okay. Let me space this out a little bit just so we can see it. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go part-time all the time. Okay. Let me explain the fall and the spring semesters. The fall and the spring semesters are the longer semesters in the school year, the academic year. They are 16 weeks. That means that they're 4 months long. Fall semester, 4 months long. Spring semester, 4 months long. There's a break in the middle, okay, right after Christmas till about the 3rd week in January. And in the summer, you can take off if you're already done with all your credits. But you're not going to be done with all your credits because you're only going to be taking 6 or 9 credits a semester. So here's what I recommend for adult learners. During the 2 longer semesters, fall and spring, take 9 credits. 3 classes. You take 9 credits a semester, 3 classes. Okay? Then we're going to do, during the spring, we're going to take another 9 credits. So we have 9 plus 9, that's 18. Okay? We need 30, so we're not there yet. But where are we going to get the other 12? We're going to go to school during the summer. Okay? We're going to go during the summer. During the summer, the college is open. And in fact, during the summer, they offer 2 sessions of classes. So what they have is a summer session 1, okay, which is early summer, about to the end of May to the middle of June. And then we have summer session 2, which is late June till late August. And then the school year starts back up again in the fall. Okay. Now, during those 2 sessions, you can do 2 classes during each session, which means you can do 6 credits in session 1 and 6 credits in session 2, which will give you 12 credits. So what you're going to do is you're going to go fall, 9 credits, spring, 9 credits, summer session 1, 6 credits, summer session 2, 6 credits. 9, 9, 6, 6 equals 30. You have just completed the same amount of school as somebody going full time. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go part time, but you're going to go the entire year. So it's going to add up to full time, but without you having the stress of taking 5 classes at the same time. You're just going to, instead of dividing 30 credits in 2 semesters, you're going to divide it in 4 semesters. So it's going to just ease your workload a little bit. Okay. And this is fantastic in terms of you managing your time. Managing your time is incredibly important in college. It's probably the second most important thing other than study. Okay, very, very important. And remember, going back to the slide, this is flexible. So you could go during the day, you could go during the evening, you could go during the weekend. Now, CUNY has actually, the pandemic has forced CUNY to actually offer some more remote learning options. So that is an option as well. And so you have a number of different options and a number of different ways to organize this stuff. Okay. Here's the other thing that you can, and that I love, that you can do with a community college education. You can use it as a building block to get your bachelor's degree. Now, remember they said, oh, don't get your bachelor's degree. Don't get your bachelor's degree. It's going to take you too long. Okay. That's true if you do it straight through. But what if we break up that degree into steps, into smaller steps? So for example, here you go in the chat box, okay? Let's say you want to do your associate's degree in mental health counseling. That is what's called an associate's degree. It's 60 credits, it's 2 years, okay? And after you get that master's, and after you get that mental health counseling degree, then you're able to use that to get a job, okay? But let's say that you want to then get your bachelor's degree. Now, here's what happens. You want to get your bachelor's degree in psychology. That is 120 credits, so it's 4 years. You just did 2. Now, what's going to happen is that the 60 credits that you have already earned in your bachelor's, in your associate's degree, is going to transfer into your bachelor's degree, okay? So that you only have to do another 60 to complete the 120. Those 60 credits that you earn, they don't just disappear. They're going to go into the 120 that you need for the bachelor's degree. Why? Because mental health counseling and psychology are similar fields. And so when you go into a similar field from what you did before, the credits transfer. Now, if you do mental health counseling to electrical engineering, no, that's not going to work because they're 2 totally separate things. Okay, but this is something that you can do. You can build a career pathway starting off with an associate's degree. Remember, we want the credential that we can get the quickest, that's going to get us into the workforce, but we may not necessarily want to stay at that level forever. And so when you go to community college, it allows you an opportunity to pick up a credential quickly, use that to go get a job, and then you still have those credits that you can put towards additional education and training, make more money. Get more degrees, make more money, okay? Same thing if you want to get your master's degree. Now you want to get your master's degree. Now you did your bachelor's degree already. You did an associate's, you did a bachelor's. Now you do a master's degree. You use the credits don't transfer over from the bachelor's degree, but you use the bachelor's degree to get accepted to a social work program for your master's degree, okay? So we're talking about doing everything nice and at a slow, nice pace, but consistent. Every time the college is open and classes are being offered, you're taking those classes. And that's the way that we're going to do it. Okay. We can go to the next slide, Mr. Rosas. Thank you. Okay, real quick on this. Okay, CUNY has been very good in terms of dealing with the pandemic. They have provided laptops to students on loan. So that you know, if you can't participate in remote learning due to technological, things that you don't have, they have provided you with assistance, training how to use Zoom and all different kind of stuff. Again, this I think will continue to be something that is important, even when we get back to normal, when things are in person. Remote learning, if you can manage it, and you are, somebody that is independently motivated, and you can manage it, This is fantastic as a time saver. You don't have to be going back and forth to campus and all this different kind of stuff. And so you may be able, what I was thinking about is putting together a hybrid schedule where you have some classes, maybe the classes that aren't as challenging, you can do those online. And then the tough stuff, like statistics or, the math and that kind of stuff, well, those classes you can do in person and you can get, some more kind of in-person support. So I do think that by September, CUNY will have some form, they haven't announced it yet, but they will have some form of in-person and maybe some hybrid learning as well. So, but there's resources there to help you out. Okay, we can move to the next one, Mr. Rosas. Okay, if you're not sure what career to train for, okay, I'm gonna again do some copy and pasting here. Let me get my links up because I want you all to have access to these links. The first one is the CUNY academic programs. Okay, now remember what we said. CUNY is a university system. So what a university system is a whole bunch of schools. It's not just one school. And that link is hot, so you can just click on that. Okay. CUNY is a university system. It has 17 different colleges, undergraduate, and about 1,600 programs. It's a lot. So what I suggest that you start doing is to start looking at this. Don't go crazy, okay? But just start looking at this website, because what I want you to do is when you go to college, I already want you to have an idea, not necessarily you're going to be locked into it, but an idea of what you're going to be doing. Because again, your situation is different than the 18-year-old graduating from high school and, I'm going to explore for 2 years and stuff like that. In 2 years, you need to have a degree and need to be working, okay, in your field. So totally different. So we want to already have a good idea of what it is that we want to be pursuing. Okay, very important. And so do some exploration around that. Now, here's the good thing about New York City is that we have a lot of different fields here. A lot of different sectors, what they call in the economy. Let me have some of these here written down that I can put up for you. Give me 1 second. Get myself together here. Here we go. Okay, I'm just gonna again copy and paste, throw this in the chat, and everybody can see this. Okay, so check out that link. That's some good stuff there. Here are some things that are in demand. Okay, and this goes to these next two links, which this is the first one is the education piece. The second one now is the nitty-gritty about where the jobs are. And when we're talking about New York City, we're talking about humongous economy with a lot of different job sectors. So in other words, this isn't a one industry town. There's a lot of different things that we can do here. So we got technology sector, healthcare, social services, trades, education, civil service, finance, logistics, middle skill jobs. Middle skill jobs. This is a very important thing. What is a middle school job? Middle skill job, I'll give you the definition. Okay, equals at least 1 year of college or training, but less than a bachelor's degree. That is a middle school job. That is the sweet spot where you want to be aiming. Okay, I can't look at you seriously in the face and tell you, oh yeah, after you get your task, go straight into a 4-year degree, talk to me in 4 years, and we'll talk about you getting a job. That's not realistic for the adult learner. Okay, we need something a little bit shorter term, but that's worth our while. Okay, so there's a big difference between a program that takes you a month and a program that takes you a year. Okay, home health aid training, you can do in a month. Okay, but again, we know that is not a high-paying position. So do it. If you need to do it, do it. I'm never telling anybody not to get a job. But I'm saying if you're in that type of position, you should be thinking about the next level of training. Maybe it's CNA, maybe it's LPN, maybe it's your RN. And be thinking about just those next career steps and pathways that you can start pursuing, because we always want to be improving our education and training. Okay, so when we talk about this link right here, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, I'll copy and paste it and throw it in the chat. this is a great resource. Okay, this is a website that shows you, it's a database, it shows you all the jobs in the economy. So it tells you what jobs are in demand, what jobs are not in demand, what's expanding, what's contracting, how much money do you make, how much education do you need, okay? What is the outlook for that job and that career that you're thinking about doing? This is the type of information that we need to refer to when we're making decisions about the first piece, about the academic progress. These things go together. You have to look at what's in demand, and you have to look and see if there's a program that fits into what's in demand. Don't just do what you like. I'm sorry to say it. Okay. Yes, that's important. We need to like what we're doing, but that can't be the only criteria, because remember, you're going to be investing your time and money into this. And so you want to make sure that there's going to be opportunities there for you when you pursue these degrees. Okay. And then the last piece is, that's for the entire country. The Occupational Outlook Handbook is national information, national level information. Just shows you some good trends. If you want to see all the state information and local information, you go to this link. This is the New York State Department of Labor. Okay, and this breaks it down by region, so you can look up information specifically for New York City. And it will tell you, long-term, short-term, in demand right now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is some good information for us to look up, and we will make sure that we will review this information with you when you are pursuing your process with us. Okay, all right, Mr. Rosas, we can go to the next one. Okay, financial aid. How are we going to pay for this stuff? Okay, so we need to make sure that we apply for financial aid. Okay, there's something called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That's called the FAFSA. Okay, you could apply for something called a Pell Grant, which is up to $6,345 per year. You can use this to get your bachelor's degree. Okay, so check it out. You can use this up until you finish with your bachelor's degree. This is a grant. That means you do not have to pay it back. It's not a loan. It's not a scholarship. This is strictly based on financial need. So if you're broke, this is the time that it pays off to be broke, because you can use this to pay for your school. And most of our students that we work with, because we work with low-income individuals, pay zero. They end up getting full financial aid. Why? Because you see here, the Pell Grant is more than the tuition at CUNY. Everybody sees that? The Pell Grant is $6,345 per year. The tuition at CUNY is $4,800. And the way this works is, this Pell Grant, they don't give it to you, because if they give it to you, what's going to happen? You guys, you're going to go on vacation. You're going to be booking flights. Okay? They send this money directly from the federal government to the school. It's all electronic. You don't have to do anything. Okay? Then the school takes, right off the top, what they are charging you, the tuition, all right? And then if there's anything left over, it goes back to you. So in this situation, it's about $1,500 left over, and that money you can use for your books and expenses and transportation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You do not have to pay it back. This is how I went to school, using Pell Grants, okay? That's how I went to school. I didn't have to pay anything. There is another program for New York State called the New York State Tuition Assistance Program that's called TAP. That's up to $5,165 per year. So you have two sources of financial aid. Now people say, well, I can't afford it. Well, you very well may. You very well may. We're going to help you apply for this. Okay? And it's free to apply. It costs you nothing to apply, and it takes like 20 minutes. We sit down with you and we do this stuff with you. Okay? What else? These are free grants for individuals with financial need to help pay for college and training. Okay, we can move on, Mr. Rosas. Thank you. Okay, eligibility. So what's the first one? You need to have your task. So this is open to individuals that have a high school diploma or high school equivalency. Okay, so you need to knock that out first things first. You have to have financial need. And you may have the question, well, how much money can I make? It doesn't necessarily work that way, because they're looking at your income relative to your situation and relative to the cost of the school. So somebody, for example, making $100,000 a year going to CUNY and they're single, they're not going to get financial aid because the tuition is only $4,800. Now, let's say you have a family of four making $100,000 a year, and they were accepted to Columbia University, where the tuition is $60,000. In that situation, yes, that family will qualify for financial aid because look at the salary, look at the annual income, and look at the tuition. The tuition is 60% of that family's income. And so by their definition, in terms of that school, they're low income. Okay, so everything varies based on situation, which is I always tell people to apply because you never know what you're going to get unless you apply. Okay, so we help you do this. We help you apply. What else? You have to be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. Now, this has changed. This is only for federal financial aid. Federal financial aid. If you do not have documentation, now you have the option of applying for something called the Jose Peralta Dream Act, the New York State Dream Act, and I'll throw it in the chat here. What this basically says is that if you graduated from a high school or you got your high school equivalency in New York State and you do not have documentation, okay, and you go to college within 5 years of finishing your task, okay, so you got 5 years to go after you finish your task, you can get state financial aid and you don't need documentation. We have had a couple of students already get this program, get this funding. This means that in New York State, you no longer need to have documentation in order to get financial aid. You will not get federal, but you'll get state. Okay, and with the state financial aid, we saw that it's $5,165 per year. You still would have enough to pay for your tuition. So now we can even use that if we don't have documentation. Fantastic. What else? You have to be working toward a degree or certificate. What does that mean? That means that you have to be actually enrolled in a program. So when you go to college, you can't just be taking whatever classes you want. You're going to be in a program that has a specific, agenda or a list of classes that you need to take in order to finish that degree. Okay, and we'll help you do that. We'll help you get that sorted out. That's what's called academic advising. Okay, what else? You can't be in default on a student loan. Student loans, don't worry about student loans. We're not going to take out student loans. Student loans are for people getting their masters and PhDs, graduate students. So for an associate's degree, this is one of the reasons I recommend CUNY and SUNY. We don't work for them. SUNY is a state university of New York. We don't work for them, but what? This is a system that's funded with your tax dollars. And that's the reason that the tuition is able to be kept so low is because you're subsidizing this system. So why not take advantage of it? Why not take advantage of it? You're paying for it literally, even if you're not going. Okay, so might as well go. All right. And then the last thing is, so we're not going to use student loans. Last thing is, we want to maintain what's called satisfactory academic progress. Satisfactory academic progress means that you are passing your classes. You have to maintain at least a 2.0 GPA. Now, this is the minimum. But if you're doing your programs that are competitive, like nursing, like radiologic technology, like dental hygiene, you're not going to be able to advance in those programs with just a 2.0 GPA. You're going to need to do much better because those programs are competitive. Okay, so in order for you to graduate from those programs and actually move to the clinical phase of those programs, then you need to have a good GPA higher than 2.0. So if we go to the next slide, Mr. Rosas, I'm going to show you some study strategies that you can use. Okay, this is very important. When you're talking about college, remember we said one of the things that's very important is time management. But here's the other thing, the most important thing is your study skills. You have to study and you have to study effectively. And I think one of the ways that you can do that is by looking into your different learning styles. And so what does that mean? That means that people learn in different ways. Some people are visual learners. If you're a visual learner, this is a fact. You love Zoom, you love Google Meet, you love StreamYard, okay, in this podcast platform, okay, because it's visual information. You love charts, graphs, colors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how you process information. Reading stuff, good for you. Okay. Some people are auditory learners. So these are people that learn by listening. Again, this is a good platform for you. Some people, they go to classes and they tape the class and then they go home and they listen to it. Okay. Some people like to discuss what they've learned with other people. They do study groups, etc. That's how they learn. Some people repeat things out loud to themselves. Okay. That's how they learn things. Okay. That's all auditory learners. All right. Some people are kinesthetic learners or tactile. That means they learn by touching, by doing, by repetition. These are the people that you see when they're on the subway and they're reading a book. They're not just reading the book, they're highlighting, they're writing in the margin. Maybe they go home and make an outline of the chapter they read, or they do flashcards. They have to learn actively, they have to be moving their body in order to learn information. Okay, so that's another style of learning. Now, we're not all one of these. We're usually mixes, but we usually have one that is stronger than the others. So what I recommend for you to do is to go into Google and just Google learning style inventory and complete one of these little learning styles inventories that are like, 10 or 15, 20 questions, and it's going to ask you about how you learn. And then based on those answers, it's going to tell you some study strategies and techniques that go with your learning style, that are complementary to your learning style. And I think that's very important because what it does is it narrows down the ways that you should be studying to the ways that are the most effective for you. Okay, remember, college is very, very important in terms of studying. Without studying, your goose is cooked. Okay, you have no shot. Okay, because it's just so much information that it doesn't matter how smart you are. Okay, in fact, I knew some very smart people that failed out of college because they were not studying appropriately. Very important to have a good study plan, and this is again something else that we can help you do. All right, we can move on, Mr. Rosas. Okay, probably hit that one again. Sure. Very, very, no problem, Ms. Haskell. No problem. Okay, so when you are ready, okay, and I will throw this in the chat. When you are ready, when you finish with your task, you're going to give us a call or send us an email or send a smoke signal or something. Let us know. Let Ms. Haskell know. Let your teachers know. Because what we will do is we will set you up with an appointment. And you can, now we're doing everything over Zoom, okay? What we will do is we will meet with you on a one-on-one basis and do all this stuff with you. We will help you apply for college. We will help you apply for financial aid. We will do career counseling. We will do academic advising. Once you get admitted to the college, we're going to help you do the paperwork so that you can register for classes, go to this office, go to that office, speak to that person, blah, blah, blah. Everything in college is a lot of process and bureaucracy. And so what we want to do is we want to help you with that process so that the only thing that you need to do is focus on your schoolwork. You all can do college, especially when you're preparing for the task. The task is already college level work. Okay, do y'all know that? The task is already college level work. It's not like the old GED. Okay, and so you're going to be well prepared to be able to do the academic side of college. Plus, there's tutoring, there's all kinds of resources, study groups, etc. So you're going to be well taken care of in that regard. And they've done research that shows that adult learners like you all do actually better than kids in college, than the 18 to 22-year-old traditional students. Why? Because y'all are not pledging a fraternity or sorority. You're not going to the frat house. You're not going to the bar. You're not hanging out. You're there to get in and out, get your degree, get your credential, build your career, move on, provide for yourself and your family. So it's a much different thing when adults go to college. You're much more focused. And so what we want to help you do is navigate, the process. I think the process is what can be tricky for you if you're not familiar with it. But that's why we're here, okay? And we can help you with it, and it's all for free. Okay, I know I threw so much information at you all, but everybody has my information. I'll throw it on here if you have any questions. And I think we may have some time for some questions here as well. Thanks for listening. I am done. Oh, you're on mute, Sula.
Uh,
There you go.
Such important information. Thank you so much, Mr. Perez. I hope this was an informative. If you missed anything and you want to view this again, just use the same link that you used to get into this podcast, and you'll be able to see a recording of what you just experienced. Carlos, when will this podcast be ready? Is it ready tomorrow, you think? Carlos is just typing away.
Yes.
It probably will be ready tomorrow. It's ready now. Oh, okay. So it's instantaneous. Love it. So if you want to review it again this evening, please feel free to do that. Thank you, David Perez. Really important information. And students, whenever you go to a podcast or you go to a meeting or a webinar, take your notes, take pictures, because a lot of times there's a lot of information. When I go to podcasts, I take my pictures because they don't always supply you with a recording, right?
That's
So you
right.
want to capture as much information as you need to. Any last minute? First, I'd like to say thank you, David. Everyone, give him a round of applause. Round of applause, or snap, 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 snap,
Yeah.
snap.
Thank you. You're
We've
very
been doing
welcome.
that. A lot of information, important information. Thank you so much. Are there any questions in the chat box, Mr. Rosas? Oh, here's Annette Williams. I attended BMCC back in 82, 84. So how can I find out how many credits I have? Or do I have to go to BMCC office to find out? Great questions, Annette.
That's a very good question. I would give a call if you do a search for the registrar, the
Mm,
BMCC registrar's office. Let me see if I can pull it up, because that would be a good place to start so they can pull up your transcript. Let's see, because they're the ones that handle all of that. Here we go. They're operating remotely, so I guess you have to send them an email.
yes.
But that would be where you would go to look at that. So yes. And then you may need to order a transcript, but they may have to dig it up because it's a
Mm-hmm.
few years ago. Okay, so but start there. Send them an email and let them know when you attended, etc., and they can start pulling up those records for you. And then
Right. So,
you could go as probably as a readmit student.
mm. So remember, it's the registrar's office.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had to do that for my transcripts as well because everything's remote. So I had to, email the registrar's office. They sent me an transcript. Now it's called. So it's doable. So do that. Any other questions? What?
Do you have to sit does that mean a test? Oh, task. You have to pass the task for nursing or sit for the test? Yes, you have to pass the task. Yes, you have to sit for a test. So both answers are yes. The way nursing works is once you complete your associate's degree in nursing, then that allows you to sit for the licensing exam, which is the NCLEX RN. Now, for you to get into a nursing program, you need to pass your task. You don't have to go to a nursing school. You just need to go to a community college that has a nursing program, which is like most of them. And that's the way that would work. Nursing is 2 years. It's an associate's degree.
Excellent. Excellent question.
The community college is not necessarily free, but using financial aid, you can get your school paid for by either the federal or state government. So in other words, it's not free in terms of there's no charge. But if you're low income, it can be, for all practical purposes, free for you.
Right.
Because if you can't afford to pay, then the federal government or the state government or a combination can provide the school with the funds to pay for you.
Right. You have to show documentation.
And we'll help you do all that. Yes.
Right. Excellent. Any other questions? Okay. It doesn't look like there are any more questions. Come on. Going once, going twice. I think we're done. 12:14. Wow. A
Very
lot of
good.
information. Mr. Perez, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time and joining us today. Don't forget, view the information. Please, if you forgot, put your name, first name, last name in the chat box with your teacher's name. If you haven't already, please click on David Perez's link. Carlos, would you please put his attendance link in the chat box for the students? Any late students can click on the link and complete his attendance, because that's how they get funded. They get funded by, they look at your attendance sheet that you completed for him, and they say, oh, he had this many students attend his podcast. Okay? So thank you, Mr. Perez. And I'll
Sure
see you in
thing.
a few moments. Ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen,
Thank you.
we will see you at another time, probably this summer. Stay tuned for any information on the summer classes. Just so you know, David Perez will be back on May 27th. So stay tuned. If you don't want to look at the recording and you want to see him in person, come back on May 27th. We will send you the link as well. And we'll see you either over the summer or we'll see you on the 27th. And thanks again for joining us. Enjoy the
Thank
rest of
you.
the day and the weekend. And David, I'll see you in a few moments.
Yes. Bye-bye,
There's that little
everybody.
ticket. David Perez returns. Dun, da, da, da. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.